Welcome back. So we are less than a week out from the NHL's draft. We are 11 days out from the start of the UFA market. And so here's a news of the day video. For now, we'll see if anything else happens. It's been relatively quiet for a Saturday. But again, you know, the market is what the market is, and I think we'll see things heat up relatively quickly once we really get things rolling. The Fiala trade being a fantastic starter for that, and then we'll see what else happens from there. Now, Chris Letang, there have been rumors that Penguins are close, and there's rumors out there again, the Penguins are close to getting him signed. The fourth period reporting that it's in the $7 to $8 million a year range. Now, I'm not sure on the length. Letang wanted 5 years. He wanted 5 years, and he wanted, I believe it was a minimum of 8.5. Now, Letang just had the best season I think he's ever had in his career. He's been absolutely fantastic. But I would also point to Mark Giordano in this example. Mark Giordano had a very, very strong season for Calgary at roughly the same age, and then it just wasn't there the following season. One of the biggest challenges for general manager is to look at your roster, look at the numbers, and try to figure out who'll do it again next year and who's going to have a harder time doing that. But it does look like Letang's the one that stays out of the two. Keeping Letang and Malkin may just not be financially feasible. And I mean, I advocated many years ago, for, I think that was back when we lived at the townhouse, so it was 2 moves ago, that for the Penguins at that time, I thought, you know, after a first round exit, maybe moving Malkin would make some sense. Not a popular video. But I do think that there's something to be said for general managers that are proactive and are willing to move a guy when he's in his prime and still playing really well. Yeah, there's a danger to that. There's a roulette aspect to it, but I kind of wish GMs were a little bit more gutsy when it comes to that kind of thing, of looking at a guy and going, okay, he's one of our best players, but somewhere down the road we may lose him for nothing. And in this case, that's what would happen with Malkin. But anyways, again, that's a discussion we can have at another time, right? Speaking of discussions we've had at another time, Pavel Datsyuk, who I double-checked, there is a career video for him on the channel, because he left the NHL and it looked like he wasn't going to come back, and in his 40s, the odds of him coming back and catching on with the team were low, although do not bet against Pavel Datsyuk. But Pavel Datsyuk, at age 43, it looks like he is retiring. So, retirement finally for Pavel Datsyuk. Again, I already did a video on the channel. Now we have the debate of, now that he's officially retired from professional hockey, in 3 years' time, he would then be eligible for the Hall of Fame. In the event that Zetterberg's been overlooked for that period of time, maybe Datsyuk and Zetterberg go in together. But either way, Datsyuk absolutely warrants inclusion in the Hall of Fame. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get there. And again, I did do a video on the channel years back regarding the career of Pavel Datsyuk. So while he's played overseas and there's more stats there from overseas, his NHL career has not changed because he didn't come back. There was discussion of whether or not he would come back, and then he didn't. But yeah, so Datsyuk, his time as a National Hockey Leaguer was finished a few years ago, and now his time as a professional hockey player ends. Yager's still active. Haven't seen anything about Yager retiring, which is interesting because people always say, well, why isn't Yager in the Hall of Fame yet? Because he's still playing. As soon as Yager retires, they won't have to worry about the 3-year waiting period. They'll waive it for Yager. He'll go right into the Hall of Fame, as legends tend to do. So, yeah. Anyways, next up. So I talked about Anthony Duclair, and he's had surgery now for his Achilles tear, and he's going to miss roughly half the season. So I find it interesting that each thing I saw said, oh, half the season. So, you know, we'll see what that does. Again, I mentioned before what that does to Florida's plans. And so for Duclair, it's a shame because he had a pretty good regular season. The playoffs didn't work out to his benefit, but he had a pretty good regular season. You would think that if he was on the market, there'd be a lot of takers. But now with this injury that's going to keep him out half the season, that just might pour some cold water on some plans for Florida, if that in fact was the plan. But yes, for Duclair, we're not going to see him through the first half of next season. Now, we are into the buyout stage of the offseason, and it's been underwhelming. Miftakov did clear, so Tampa Bay gets to buy out his contract, and he's gone. Now Matt Tennyson has been put on unconditional waivers by the Nashville Predators, and that's for a buyout. So Matt Tennyson on waivers, not exactly a huge name, but it's Nashville saying we're gonna let this guy go. His contract's done with us. We don't have future plans for him. So all the best to Tennyson. He can be a good depth defenseman. We'll see where he lands. Sometimes guys get bought out, and it works out pretty well for them. Bogosian comes to mind as a guy that worked out pretty well for him after he got bought out by the Buffalo Sabres. So we'll see what happens with Tennyson. Now, the most interesting news of the day that I've seen is that the New York Rangers are in the market for a number 2 center. And the first thing I thought was, how much chaos would it create if they picked up Malkin? So Strome and Copp apparently are both hitting the UFA market. I've got my fingers crossed that a team I cheer for might pick up Andrew Copp because I think he is fantastic. Looking at you, Boston, I'd rather see Copp than Krejci, but that's me. But anyways, for the New York Rangers, they're going to be in the market for number 2 center, so I wore my JT Miller jersey because I'm sure this will just fuel those JT Miller trade rumors, which, with the signing of Besser, does that make it more likely? I don't think so, but again, it's a surprise in this market. And for the New York Rangers and for their fans, I mean, they made a lot of strides this year. I think it'd be disappointing if Strome and Copp left and if they don't find an adequate replacement. So maybe Nazem Kadri ends up with the New York Rangers. We'll see what ends up happening here. I know Kadri wants to go back to the Avs, but again, guys will often say, I'd like to stay here. And then the market calls and the market's offering them way more money, or maybe it's a better opportunity, or they just realize, yeah, I liked it here, but I'm going to find that opportunity and I might win a cup there. So the New York Rangers, they're in that no man's land. Are they going to be a playoff team next year? They should be, right? Absolutely should be. They made it pretty far in this year's playoffs. But if they lose Strome and Copp, and if they're not able to come up with a solution and a really good replacement, that'd be too bad. And again, I think that all 3 members of the kid line definitely did enough in the playoffs that I think it would warrant another look at putting them together in the regular season and seeing what they're able to do. Because if it worked in the playoffs, it can work in the regular season. But the New York Rangers, one of those teams that we're going to be keeping an eye on pretty heavily in the offseason. Because again, it was a nice run they went on, unexpected, and those are always fun. But not every team that goes on those unexpected runs ends up following it up with another successful season. I hope the Rangers do, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.